Hello and welcome to Improving Historical Reading and Writing. My name is Corbin Moore, and Scott Petrie and I are the instructors for the course. In Module 1, we will focus on the continued importance of content literacy and academic vocabulary in history and social studies classrooms. One of the things we'd like for you to keep in mind and reflect upon as we make our way through the modules is the course central question, which is simply, what does effective social studies instruction look like? Hopefully the lessons and activities in the MOOC will help you expand your knowledge of what is possible and help you define what effective social studies instruction looks like for your class. One thing we want to be clear about is Ben Stein's lecture about the Great Depression and Ferris Bueller's Day Off is not an example of good social studies instruction and student engagement. We also have focus questions for each module for you to consider as you work through the readings, videos, and activities for each module. Here are the focus questions for Module 1. What role do social studies play in the development of students' reading and writing skills? How can content literacy strategies help build students' academic vocabulary and ability to access and analyze texts? How can educators conquer the fourth grade slump and address the needs of struggling readers and English language learners? Content literacy remains a powerful tool for teachers across the curriculum to engage students in text and to become active participants in their learning. In 2001, Marzano, Pickering, and Pollock published Classroom Instruction That Works, Research-Based Strategies for Increasing Student Achievement. I was first exposed to this book as a classroom teacher. It includes many of the strategies I was using on a regular basis based on my History Alive training and my district's participation in the High Schools at Work and Making Middle Grades Works program. Classroom Instruction That Works provides research-based data showing how teachers can increase student performance with the effective integration of content literacy strategies. And you can see, looking at the chart, these range from identifying similarities and differences where there's an effect size of 1.61 with a potential percentile gain and achievement of 45%, and that's based on 31 studies, and that ranges down to questions, cues, and organizers, which have an effect size of 0.59, a 22% potential gain, and that was based on a lot more studies at 1,251. The graphs display normal distribution of student achievement, or the bell curve. Marzano and his team show that content literacy strategies have the potential to raise student achievement exponentially. However, the application of these strategies and other factors like poor classroom management and curriculum design can mitigate the success of the strategies. I wanted to include for you some of my favorite content literacy books for social studies and really across the curriculum, because that's what content literacy is all about. The first is Building Literacy in the Social Studies, and this one does a nice job of laying out specific content literacy strategies that could be used in the social studies classroom. The second is Max Teaching with Reading and Writing, and this has been a favorite of mine for over a decade. It is written by Dr. Mark Forget, who's a professor at Findlay University in Ohio. And he does a nice job of laying out in the first half of the book his philosophy, and then the second part includes practical content literacy strategies that you can use right off the bat in any classroom. My favorite out of that book, of course, is the Anticipation Guide. Then there's the BLAH book from TCI, Bringing Learning Alive, which in the section on interactive student notebooks lists a ton of great content literacy strategies that you could use on a regular basis. And I realize that's a for-profit company, but they do have a lot of free things out there on their blog. And then there's Reading History from Janet Allen, and then her other two books that actually came out before Reading History, Tools for Teaching Content Literacy. And the purple book was the first Janet Allen book I ever had, and it's a nice flip book that you can go through and try out the strategies. There's also a lot of free sites out there that include content literacy strategies. The first one is ReadingQuest, Making Sense in Social Studies. Again, this has been one that's been out there for a long time, and the thing I like about it explains the strategy, it has the instructions that you can print out, and also it has worksheets that go along with those strategies that you can try out. The second one, that's CEA, is Collins Writing, which is an invaluable tool for social studies teachers, and again across the curriculum, because that's what content literacy is all about. But this, for social studies teachers, is a great way to coach kids to be better writers, going through the 5 types of writing. Next up on the list is the Greece Central School District, and they have before, during, and after strategies for teachers to use for their instruction across the curriculum. And we have the National Writing Project, which does a real nice job at the national level and at the state level. We have the Ohio Writing Project here in Ohio at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. Teachers Curriculum Institute, I mentioned in the last slide, with their interactive notebooks, tons of good content literacy strategies there. Web English Teacher has a lot of good strategies listed out. I really like the one at the bottom, Choose Your Own Adventure. This comes from Mr. Roten's class, and he has these content literacy strategies broken up in a list by time and how long it takes and how many points they're worth. But for the students to demonstrate mastery of a particular content or skill, they have a choice. So it truly is Choose Your Own Adventure, which adds to that differentiation. Next up is Read, Write, and Think from NCTE. A lot of good strategies there. And then again, one of my favorites is Max Teaching, and the reason I have it on these content literacy sites is because there are downloadable free lessons for you to use and integrate into your classroom. There are a lot of content literacy strategies available to help students build their academic vocabulary and background knowledge. And we felt this is an area that we need to spend a little more time on to help explain just how important the social studies are to a student's overall literacy development. A few years ago, I received an email from Herff Jones offering access to one of their new white papers. So I filled out the form, and I found that these papers are pretty useful. They're well written, and I use them on a regular basis. The first article I downloaded, Broad Knowledge Drives Literacy, continues to be a driver of what I do in workshops and to promote the importance of social studies and civic literacy. So to kind of frame this section, I wanted to start out with a quote from Marzano, and it says, "Reading well helps students to learn in all subjects, but reading well requires the development of a knowledge base and the academic vocabulary that goes with it." And this chart is one of the most powerful weapons that social studies teachers have to promote civic and social studies education. The data in the chart shows that the social studies, history, geography, civics, and economics, when you combine all those, make up 55% of a person's academic vocabulary. This chart shows that schools that focus their instruction on the testing subjects of reading and math are robbing students of exposure to essential academic vocabulary words during their elementary years. This is the point where students are transitioning from learning to read in the primary grades to reading to learn in the intermediate grades, and is definitely a contributor to the 4th grade slump. Bringing Words to Life by Beck, McEwen, and Kuchen divide vocabulary words into 3 tiers. Tier 1 are those everyday conversational words. Tier 2 words are high utility academic vocabulary from across the curriculum. And Tier 3 words are discipline-specific academic terms. The authors of Bringing Words to Life promote the use and instruction of Tier 2 words to build students' academic vocabulary. Marzano feels this is a mistake because of the frequency of word use of Tier 2 words, and there's no real distinction of why one Tier 2 word is more important than another. He promotes instead direct instruction of disciplinary academic vocabulary that aligns with what's being taught in content area classes. During the primary grades, most American schools do a good job of teaching the 5 big ideas of beginning and reading instruction. And those are phonemic awareness, academic principle, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. Problems with reading proficiency start to appear at the 4th grade, particularly in low-income schools. Students in impoverished situations typically do not go home to households or communities where Tier 2 and Tier 3 vocabulary words are spoken on a regular basis. This again shows why it's vital to teach content area subjects like science and social studies to ensure that students are exposed to those discipline-specific academic vocabulary terms. The background and vocabulary gained from these classes, combined with continued comprehension instruction, will help students be able to tackle those more complex texts and better be prepared for coursework at the secondary and post-secondary levels. We will further discuss how content literacy skills and exposure to disciplinary literacy skills can help break the 4th grade slump in the module's readings and activities. We've mentioned how poverty can impact students' reading ability as they enter the intermediate grades, but I also want to point out the unique challenges of English language learners. It typically takes as many as 7 years or more for ELLs to gain a high level of English language proficiency. And it's critical for these students to have that direct vocabulary instruction and work in a sheltered environment. Be sure to work with your Title I and ESL teachers to find ways that you can set specific language objectives and use content literacy strategies to help these students improve their reading ability. The last topic I want to touch upon before we jump into Module 1 is defining content literacy and disciplinary literacy. Content literacy skills are the more general literacy strategies and best practices that can be applied in any subject area. Disciplinary literacy skills are those specialized skills and concepts that professionals use in the field and at work every day. In Module 2, we ask participants to discuss the right balance between content and disciplinary literacy instruction for their classroom. This will be an ongoing question for you throughout the remainder of the course. Thank you once again for taking the course, and Scott and I look forward to speaking with you through the discussion boards in the coming weeks. Thanks again, and take care.